A new leader has dropped and is extremely powerful in the Japanese meta right now. We got Green Film Uta. It's a 5 life leader, 5,000 attack. With the ability Dawn X1, when attacking once per turn, you can reveal the top card from your deck and add a film card from your hand to your hand, and then place the rest to the bottom of your deck. So every single card in the deck is essentially a hit, so you're never really going to be whiffing with this ability. And on top of that, we get to use one of the most powerful combo synergies in the game, which is film. And she got a few new goodies to really up the power level of the deck. So I'm going to be going through the cards and what I think about some of the lists and variations of the list, because there's a few different choices and stuff. So let's get into it. Starting out with our search card, we got New Genesis. If your leader is Uta, look at 3 cards from the top of your deck, reveal 1 film card of the New Genesis and add it to your hand, then place the rest at the bottom of your deck. And then said, what are your Dawn is active? So essentially, you can't really mess up your Dawn management with this card because it's free, because you get the set the Dawn is active when it's done. Looking at 3 cards isn't a big deal because you're never going to be whiffing. And it's basically a small power creep, in my opinion, to the traditional 1-cost search event, because the fact that it's free, some of these cards, especially in Whitebeard Pirates, it would leave some of your Dawn. You needed all your Dawn to play your guys, but now that the searcher is basically free and you're never going to whiff, this new searcher is kind of insane. Next up with the new cards, we got I'm Invincible, with the main being to set up your Uta leader as active. So basically, we have a OP-01 kid leader that we have to draw. It costs the same. The trigger also gives you plus 1,000 during the turn, which happens a lot with these sort of event cards. But being able to have this event and have your opponent worry about a double swing and always be cognizant, like, oh, well, if I have no life and I'm going to need more than 1 blocker, can I really handle 2 12k swings this turn? It's a lot to have to deal with, and being able to draw multiple of these, because the kid leader is only bound to 1 per turn. This one you can keep setting it up over and over again for 2 9k or 3 9k swings, which is also very strong too. Whether you're clearing board or trying to go for game, this card is actually like kind of insane in the deck, being able to just restand your leader. Next, we got Backlight. If your leader is Uta, choose 1, rest up to one of your opponents with a cost of 5 or less, or KO one of your opponent's rested characters with 5 costs or less. That's a main effect, and it costs 2 Dawn. Some of the decks in this format try to hide behind blockers, especially Purple Luffy has a lot of 5 costs and below blockers. So this, combined with some of the restand abilities in the deck, can definitely help you push for game. This is a very good card, and it can kill. So if your opponent gets greedy, say with a blocker trying to attack it, you can just kill it with this card for 2 Dawn, and killing a 5 cost for 2 Dawn is insane. It doesn't have any trigger, but I think the effect by itself is good enough that it's worth having 4 of in the deck. And now we get to the part where we talk about why it's okay to run the previous events. We got a new card in the form of a 3/4 blocker Uta. At the end of your turn, you may trash 1 event card from your hand, set 1 up to your film character's active. So the card that we talked about before, Backlight, sometimes you're not going to be in a position to use it, but you're always going to be in a position to be able to discard something for this ability. Because before, the option was Barto, and that restood a guy if you tapped it. But this is basically using dead cards in your hand to be able to get another block off, say, from a Luffy, or to protect your Nami, or any of the other film cards that are about to show in the rest of the deck. But this is a huge addition to the film package. Being able to restand your guys more often for dead cards is an insane ability, because you just, like, the last thing you want is to be bricked up, and trading that for the ability to protect yourself and your board is extremely powerful. Getting into more of the meat of the deck, basically our engine is going to revolve around this Nami, where we have an on play for 1 Dawn. We get to look at the top 3 cards of our deck and reveal up to 1 film card as well. This is also an when attacking ability. So basically, this is going to allow us to draw 3 cards every turn between we draw a card, we use our Uta ability and hit, and we use our Nominee ability and hit, and we're just generating crazy card advantage this way. We're also gaining the pieces for our combo. We're getting our Luffys, we're getting our Brooks, and we're getting more of the film Uta to continue to just restand more of our guys and get just super serious card advantage. If we can keep this alive with our UTA as well, it's like I said, we're getting 3 cards every turn, and that's easily a really good win condition. We just win the game doing that twice. So obviously the main choice for the engine if you're going film package. Getting into the main piece of the combo, we have run 4 of the film Brook, where on play we play up to 1 film or straw hat crew with a cost of 3 or less. Basically, we're going to be using this to play out our Nami most of the time. We want to basically play whatever one no counter or 1 counter card that we have that we can play that might be good on the board. But essentially, we're trying to target our Nami. Usually, we can play like an Usopp out of this as the other target. And basically want to hold this till we have a good combo. If we play it on curve and be able to get out the Nami, that's basically super insane for us that we're getting those sort of bodies out. And this also combos well into the Luffy that we're going to get into next. So this is going to be our main combo piece. And when we're talking about the larger combo, we have a 7/7 Luffy, also a film card, blocker on play up to 1 film or straw hat card with a 4 or less in your hand. So the combo is you're going to be playing this Luffy, and then you're going to be playing the film Brook we just talked about into the Nami, all for 7 Dawn. And at the same time, you can also play the UTA out as well, which is another great combo piece that I kind of forgot to mention about with the Brook, that we even have more chances to pull off this big combo. Between drawing the 3 cards with our Nami, we should be able to pull this combo off more reliably, which is why I think this new version of UTA is way stronger than the film versions of Kids, where there's limited ways to draw our pieces. But now we just have a constant engine of like, okay, now we get our Nami, our Brook, and our Luffy. And if basically we get that combo off more than once, we are going to win the game pretty easily. Especially if we go Luffy, Brook, Nami, and the next turn swing out and then play Luffy into UTA and restand the Luffy. And that gives you 3 blockers. There's no way that's going to kill you. It's a very excellent win condition. And obviously, you know, this is the bread and butter of film decks, and Luffy's always just been one of the staple cards in the list. To talk about more of the combo pieces, we really don't want to whiff of the deck and want to see our Luffy combo. So we're going to be running 4 of these 4/6 film Zoros. Vanillas are crazy in one piece. Being able to swing over most leaders and just attaching 1 Dawn for a sweet 7 hit is insanely good as well. And just because we're here and everything, we'll also say that we're putting 4 Usopps as well for the same reason. We want to be able to combo with our Brook. We want to be able to combo with our Luffy. We want to give more hits to our leader ability. The card is amazing all around. Of course, we just need as many combo pieces as we can in the deck to make sure that we're just pulling off a consistent game plan, because our leader is granting us the ability to do so more regularly. So Law is going to be one of our tech choices. Basically, what we want to do with this card is play it out on curve. Basically, we want this in our starting hand. When we're going second, we play it out on our 2 Dawn turn, and then the next turn we can use the 1 Dawn to play out a 3 Dawn like a Nami and use our leader ability. It basically gives us a super efficient turn for the turn after you play it. You can also swing with it, return it to your hand. So it's basically there to just give you a little more efficiency the turn after you play it and give you a lot of chances to get a full combo off while also getting out another larger body afterwards that's not just like a 3K. So this card's like replaceable. I've seen it replaced with cards that we'll talk about later after I get done talking about the rest of the deck. But basically, I like the card because it gives you a ton of efficiency for that turn after you play it, which can be crucial for just like really popping off with all your combo pieces at the same time and getting just like 4 big bodies out in 1 turn. I'll also quickly mention the 2Ks. We only have 1 2K that's a searchable, so we're always going to be playing the 4 of Choppers. And Izo is really good for closing out games if you need a blocker to tap, if you need to kill a guy. Izo definitely has a ton of utility as a 2K. Even though it's not searchable, we're only running 8 2Ks anyways, and we're basically just rushing our opponent down and using the rest of our cards as counter just because we get so much hand advantage, so we don't need this insane amount of 2Ks. And since the meta isn't completely flooded with 6K leaders, it's not as bad to not run as many 2Ks as previously needed, because with Whitebeard you would need an overabundance of 2Ks to make sure you weren't taking any free chip damage. And now we get to our bomb. We got the big boy 1010 Don Quixote Doflamingo on play. A total of 3 of your opponent's rested characters cannot become active to your opponent's next refresh phase. We're running 4 of this in this deck because it just wins games. If you have the life you need, this deck runs a lot of blockers, so it's easy to stay healthy. And when your opponent tries to swing out to do any sort of damage for you, you punish them hard with the big boy Doflamingo. And basically, if you can land the first one, you're 90% of the way winning. 2 will win you most games. This card's pretty insane. I've seen other bomb choices, but as far as I've seen, I like this choice the best because of just like how outright it is to winning games, especially in a meta with Purple Luffy where basically everything's swinging out every turn, so you don't have to really worry about them not doing that, especially with their kids. If you are able to freeze their 7-8 kids, then they cannot buff their leader the turn after, and that'll give you a win condition. So I think in the meta, it's really good right now where everybody's swinging out all the time, essentially. And I think you can go down to 2, and we'll talk about our next bomb coming up. But right now, I think this is the best bomb to have a 4 of, because I don't think you're ever playing more than 4 cards that are higher cost than Luffy. So great card, love it, needs 4 of. So everything I mentioned before was part of what I consider the core of the Film UTA deck, but now we can move on to more tech choices. These are things that I think aren't necessary, but could be really good. First up, we got this Bartomelo. It's a promo version, so this card is like really expensive right now. Like if you were gonna play this deck, you might as well pick it up now. It's like the end of October, so the prices aren't insane. But once this deck comes out and people see how good this card can be, because we're basically abusing another restand. So we're restanding with our Barto, we're restanding with our Film UTA, and basically we're able to swing with our guys without any of them dying. And our Luffy is always protecting us. So while I don't think this is necessary because it's a little bit of overkill on the restand ability when you already have Film UTA, I don't know how many guys you're restanding every turn that you would need to have multiple restands on the field without running out of room. But this card definitely has its place and definitely can win you games sometimes when you don't see the UTA. But I don't know if it's better than the law in terms of getting efficiency. But again, the restand ability is super powerful. I've seen even people play the 1 cost event to restand their guys. I don't know if any of the lists that I'm coming up have that, but this is definitely a good replacement for one of those. This is our other choice for bomb. I've seen people play 2 max of this kid alongside of like 2 or 1 Dofis. It's kind of the same thing as Dofi. Sometimes you just play this card and it wins you the game. Sometimes I worry about it because it can get kind of wrecked by cards like Kaido. If you don't have a Luffy on the board, the Kaido can rip apart your blocker and go straight 10k to it. But on the other side, it does essentially turn you into an AK leader for a short period of time unless they have like minus effects. I don't think a lot of decks right now, at least with Purple, Luffy, and Enel, I think Sakazuki might have a lot easier time dealing with this card, why I also think that Dofi might be the better option because 10 is a lot harder to reach for that. But again, this card can outright win you the game. There's no way to really have efficient swings into it unless you're red and you have things like Otama or just like some card that's able to minus the effect, because essentially your opponent is getting no value because they're having to climb so high to even try to contest the card. And if you get any sort of blocker off alongside of this, you can even use this card to play a Film UTA or use it to play out even like a Law, which could give you, a card the next turn that could help you out. But anyways, the card is actually really good in the deck, but I don't know if there's room in the deck to run it right now just because of how iffy it can be in certain situations compared to the Dofi, which basically will command a presence and essentially just win your game as soon as it comes down. Last thing I wanted to mention as far as techs, the lists that include the kid also have the ability to run Jewelry Bonnie if they feel like the kid actually is their main win condition, which also allows you to get out of Scratch Man. The Bonnie does make sense a little bit because we do have supernovas in the form of like Zoro and Law, also Luffy. So it's not like the Bonnie is going to whiff, but we're also mildly contradicting our leader ability because we're reducing the amount of film cards that we're basically hitting by playing the Bonnies themselves and the kids. So I do like it. I don't like the idea of whiffing because I just love the idea of consistency in this game, but it is definitely a very interesting idea if you're trying to high roll your opponent and see a little bit more searches instead of relying on the new Genesis card, because essentially this is replacing the new Genesis card. But I'd rather play the new Genesis card. I just thought I'd mention that it allows you to play another searchable 2K, which is going to be another advantage, and get out one of your main bombs, which is Kid. And while not playing Bonnie, if you're not playing the Kid Bonnie combo, you have no way to search out your Doflamingo, which I thought was the better card. But I don't know how essential that is, and we'll continue to test this further. But that's basically it for the deck. I don't think it's out on Sim yet, but I'm definitely excited to be able to test with it more. I think you can use Tabletop Simulator if you do want to test it out. But definitely super excited for this list. I'm glad to see green film come back and see its popularity again. And also I really enjoy when Bandai is able to make another A tier deck and something else that people have to put on their radar instead of just being able to ignore another like failed experiment. But anyways, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.